everybody, welcome to another video. My name is Infiniti, and if you don't know, I'm the face, the voice, and the hands behind all the content here under Infiniti Crafting Co. Today I am here with a special tutorial that has been brought to you by my supporters in my merch shop. So a little background story. I relaunched my merch shop back in January, and I've been rolling out designs every month, and it's been going pretty well. I've been getting overall input from the community via the polls under the community tab, so I want to thank you guys for participating in that. I also want to thank the people who have been over there shopping. As you guys know, a couple channel chats ago, I explained my situation with my teeth and all of that, and your support makes it possible for me to continue to do these videos and bring you content that you enjoy. So I thought today, right, since this is my most popular item in the merch shop so far, my coffee mugs, I thought that I would make cup cozies for you guys. So it's a very simple concept. There we go, concept. It's a very simple one. It doesn't take that long, so I thought that this would be a great opportunity for a tutorial. So without further ado, I'm going to get into showing you guys how to make one. I decided to make mine out of wool today because it's super warm, and I imagine if you're holding a cup and you have a cozy on it, you want the material to be warm so your hands can be warm also. For today's tutorial, you are going to want a little bit of wool yarn. Today I'm using Lion Brand's Fisherman's Wool. I have a 4mm crochet hook, a button, some scissors, and a darning needle. I also have a tape measure. I will have row counts for you at the end of the video. Actually, when this video is over, if you want to head over to the blog that I will leave linked in the description box and in the top comment, then you can find all of my row counts and measurements and such on the website. Alright, now let's jump into this tutorial. Alright, so here is the actual cup cozy that I have made for this mug over here. And it measures about 7 inches when it comes off of the machine. After I stretched it and whatnot, it measures to 8 inches, and that is because your average coffee mug like this, or maybe one in your cabinet, measures about 8 inches in circumference. So the distance around the whole cup is about 8 inches. So knowing what I know, I cranked out less than what I needed because I am aware of how my material will stretch. So what we want to do is we're going to grab our Sentro 22. I'm going to set this one to the side here. I'm going to grab our Sentro 22 for this. And what I want to do is cast on, as I normally would. We're going to be casting on in the round. So I want to crank around, find my indicator needle, and just going to cast on. Alright, I'm going to put a little yarn down in the center of the machine. Make sure my black indicator needle is catching the yarn, and I'm going to alternate weaving this yarn in the front and in the backs of these needles. If you're new to this channel, I have been doing the Sentro knitting machine tutorials for a few years now, and so I have a long playlist back on my channel. So if you want to check that out, you are more than welcome to do so. Alright, so with this yarn, I'll just put it in the largest tension hole here. Doesn't really matter. And what I want to do, let's move my tools. I'm going to pull out a little bit of yarn here. Alright, and I'm going to start cranking. Slowly at first to make sure that I don't drop any stitches. Yes, by the way, my machine is grinding a little bit. I do apologize. I won't make you listen to all of the grinding, but I will start cranking now that my yarn has been established here. We don't really need waste yarn because we will be taking advantage of the tail ends on both sides. I'm going to crank until I get 7 inches of fabric out of here. So when I measure, I of course measure from the very edge of my fabric up, and so far I just have an inch. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and crank up, and I'll meet you guys back when I have my 7 inches. Alright, we should have 7 inches here. So I'm just going to get on down in this machine with my tape measure and get to the very edge of my fabric down here, and if I match things up, I have exactly 7 inches here. Alright, so now I am good to cast off. I'm just going to move that out of the way. I've almost knitted this thing into this machine before. We're going to make sure our black indicator needle catches our yarn. You're just going to pull out maybe 18 inches worth of tail. You won't need that much, but you'd rather have more than less. I'm just going to cut that off there. Right? And I'm going to crank my whole row without yarn to cast off. Alright, and now I am right back to the beginning. I'm not letting that go past that black indicator needle because I don't want stitches falling off of this machine. And what we're going to do is thread our yarn needle here. So get on through there. There we go. I have a bent one. I just like how these work with the machine a lot better than the straight ones. And what we're going to do is we're going to go from back to front on these loops and pick them off with our darning needle. Okay, and just pull the yarn through. Okay, and I turn the machine itself when I personally cast off, because then I don't have to worry about accidentally cranking too far and losing all of my stitches. So I am going to just, again, go from back to front on these loops, inside the machine to out, and just take them off. If you're a little heavy-handed or your yarn's a little catchy, always put a finger next to the stitch that you are currently working on, because this keeps stitches from flying off also. Alright, and getting this last one off my machine. Just go ahead and, okay, you can go ahead and pull this off. Sometimes these get caught around there and you just gotta pluck them off with your needle. Alright. Alright, so here we are with our cast off fabric, and I'm just going to go ahead and pull on this tail where I just cast off the machine, and I'm going to cinch it just a little bit, or a lot maybe, you know, but basically I want it to pull inward. And when you tug on it like that, it will flatten it out. So there's no real need for waste yarn with this project, at least in my opinion. But if you use waste yarn, be my guest. Go ahead, go for it. Now with this, and I'm going to do the same thing. Just tug that in, making sure it's good and cinched in, about the same as the other side. just tuck in those stitches that are trying to puff out. Alright, maybe tuck again over here. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my crochet hook. Now if you don't know how to crochet, you can just sew this, but you're going to want the crochet hook to make the buttonhole for this. I'm going to start on my short side over here, again making sure that's nice and cinched in, and I'm going to pick up my tail. I'm going to insert my crochet hook right here at the side, directly under where that tail is coming out of, and I'm going to yarn over, pull up a loop, and chain one. I'm then going to crochet into that space with a single crochet. So you insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through both loops on your hook, and that creates your first single crochet. You want to make about 6 or 7 of these, depending on how small you made this opening here. And I'm just going straight through those knitted stitches, one row below. There's about 3 of them. There's 4 of them. 5. And there is 6. And here is 7. Now, what you want to do is chain 1, turn your work. You're going to insert your crochet hook into the base of that chain 1. You're going to yarn over, pull up a loop. You're going to yarn over, pull through both of those. Now, what I want to do is something that's called alternative chaining. So what I'm going to do here is insert the head of my hook into that left leg of the single crochet we just made. I'm going to yarn over, pull up a loop. There's 2 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull through both of those. Okay, I might be cutting it a little close here with the length of this tail, but it's okay. If you think that your tail overall might be too short, you can always just do that row of single crochet with a fresh piece of yarn. There's 3. There's 3. There's 4. Now I made 7 of these single crochet going across here. So I'll do 6 chains. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to do number 5 and number 6. Okay, and then I'm going to come over here, going to find that first single crochet we made, and I'm going to slip stitch into it. I'm just going to yarn over, pull through that loop, and then pull through the other loop on my hook. And that has secured the other side of our chain. I like using the alternative chain for buttonholes because it is thicker, and even though you may put a lot of wear and tear on this item, this won't break on you over time. Okay, and so now I am going to just slip stitch into the space below where I just slip stitched to make that even more secure, and I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to cut my yarn. Right? And then we can go about weaving that in. Alright. And if you're watching this and you're not a knitter, a good way to weave in your ends in knitted fabric is to go under one of the legs of your stitch, of that V, and you're just going to kind of turn your needle counterclockwise and insert it into the stitch that's above it. And it may not seem like much, but as you continue to do this down your project, in the end you won't be able to see this, which is a handy thing, especially if you are working on a project where you don't have the option of tucking the yarn on the inside. Now, I personally like to weave my needle down inside of my project, and I'll just snip it off there, but this way it's inside the project and you don't really have to worry about it. And then if it ever does come loose, you can still have enough yarn there to thread it through and reweave the end if that's ever a problem. Right? But it's definitely inside the project. It's not showing through on the other side. So I'm going to just snip that. Alright, and this is the first side of it. I'm also going to go in and just tie up this these strings because I did connect some yarn to my alternative chain instead of crocheting the single crochets over again. So I'm going to knot that, and then I'm going to come back after I've woven these down into my project. Right, and the great part about this is that we did a row of single crochet, so it's really easy to weave that in through those single crochet stitches, and you don't have to worry about the wiggling the yarn down in there. And wool is a fiber that likes to catch and grab on itself, so the friction will hold this in over time. Okay, let's do the other end. Just like we did at the opposite end where we put our buttonhole, we are going to come over here, insert our hook under where the yarn is coming out. We're going to yarn over, we're going to pull up a loop, we're going to chain one, then we're going to insert our hook into that same space, yarn over, pull up a loop, and we are going to yarn over, pull through two to form a single crochet. Right, and that in itself secures these stitches so they're not moving anywhere. So now what you want to do is replicate the stitch count that you did on the other end. So since I made 7 single crochets over there, I want to place 7 over here also. So there's 2. There's 3. 4, 5, 6, and we're going to go for number 7, which is technically off to the side here. Okay, and now just going to chain 1 to secure that. And I'm going to pull my yarn on through there, and that secures this end. Let's move that extra yarn out of our way. That secures this end, and now what we're going to be doing is attaching our button. I do have a lighter colored button right here. Okay, and I am going to do what's called a button shank. Okay, I'm not a seamstress, but of all the things that I have done, the button shank is probably the most memorable one. So what you want to do is, first of all, we're going to thread our yarn needle here, pull it through, and I am going to take my darning needle and I'm going to go down and weave this into my project to kind of meet up where I want my buttonhole to go. I'm going to do one pass like through the single crochets right here, and then I'm going to place this button right here. Looks good. Okay, and I'm going to just weave this down about 3 or 4 rows. I'll pull my yarn through there. Alright, now I'm going to place my button down here. Okay, and I know that I want to do this shank in an X pattern like I did for this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my yarn needle up through that bottom right. Might be the bottom left for you guys, but I'm going to put it through the bottom right hole of my button. And then I'm going to jab my darning needle into the hole that's on the upper left. And I'm going to make it go all the way through my fabric and out the back. Okay? Then I am going to stick my darning needle back into the back of my fabric, and we're going to come down here to the bottom left hole of this button, pulling our yarn through, kind of yanking on it. I like to make it more snug. And then I'm going to insert my needle into that upper right hole all the way through my fabric. I'm going to bring it back through the back. Okay, and when it comes to buttons, the more you do this, the more tacked down it will be. This isn't the actual shank part of it. I'll get to that in a minute, but I always like to do mine at least twice. So I'm going to, again, jab my darning needle through my fabric, and I'm going to come out of that bottom right hole, head up to the upper left, go back down. We are going to come out of that bottom left, ow, and we are going to then insert our needle through that upper right. Alright, and now we have this tacked down. But you don't want to leave this like this, because all the extra wear and tear and tugging on this will eventually loosen this up, and this will break off and you'll be set. So what you want to do is go ahead and bring that darning needle back up through the fabric, but make sure it stays behind the button and kind of close to the buttonholes back there. Hope you can see that. We're just going to bring that through there. Okay? And now is probably the most simple part. We are going to give it a little tug. We're going to wrap it counterclockwise underneath the button. And my tension here is tight, not so much that I'm breaking my yarn, but just tight enough to make sure that this is a very secure wrapping. This is the part of the shank that's the actual shank. So this raises the button up from the fabric just a little bit and gives you the wiggle room to maneuver it through the buttonhole. Alright, and I've lost track of how many times I've wrapped that, but you can wrap it quite a few times. Usually 8's good, and I'm pretty sure I've done that. So once you have wrapped your yarn and you are satisfied, you are going to take your yarn needle and you are going to jam it through where you've wrapped back here. And this is where this bent needle kind of comes in handy, because you can jab it through there and then immediately go down into the fabric, because that's what you want to do. You want to come out the back of your fabric like so. Okay? And that button is secure now. So what I'm going to do is go back it down through here, and I am going to just find a spot where I can weave this into my knit stitches basically, and I'm going to do this until I get back up there to those single crochets, and then I'm going to run this through those single crochets. so that it is super duper secure. Right, and I'm right here up against the edge of these single crochets, so I'm just going to wiggle through there. Alright, and I am good to snip my yarn. Alright, and this is what our finished project looks like. If I wasn't recording, this would probably only take me 10 minutes. But because I'm showing off things in detail today, it took a little longer. Now we're just going to do a product test here. So as you saw when I pulled on this buttonhole to stretch it over, this will give you the extra inch. And actually, I think I wrote on my blog post, this gives you extra 4 to 5 inches of stretch when you are putting it on a cup. So, you know, you can have a cup that's up to like 12 inches in circumference and still have this to fit on there. Alright? So that was today's tutorial. I hope it was helpful for you guys. If so, don't forget to leave this video a thumbs up. Ring that notification bell so you don't miss out on future Sentro knitting machine tutorials and other related content. I will be updating that playlist throughout the year, so keep an eye out for it. If you want to continue to support my content apart from subscribing, you can check out my newsletter, sign up for that. Just head over to my website, scroll down to the very bottom, and then enter your information there. You can again check out the merch shop, which is the reason behind this whole video. Right now I just have crochet related, crochet humor type graphics over there, but they come on a variety of items, mugs, t-shirts, sweaters, hoodies, backpacks even. I have a few weekender totes over there also. And you can check me out on Instagram also at Infiniti Crafting Co. And until next time guys, happy making.